is Heather Park with the Santa Fe Institute of Mediumship and Spiritual Studies. And today we're here with Miss Jackie Wright, who's in England. And I just want to say, Jackie, thank you so much for being here with us and spending some time with us. It's the evening there. We're in the middle of March. It's 2022. And Jackie's going to be teaching a course with us online starting in June. And if Jackie, you could just tell us a little bit, the name of your course is Language of Spirit. And if you could just tell us a little bit about what that actually is and how we communicate with spirit.
Okay. Hi, Heather. It's lovely to be here with you. And I'm super excited about this course too. So that's good. So I chose the title Language of Spirit because it's very important to me that I teach students the reality of spirit communication. There is a lot of myths around how the spirit world communicates with us. It sometimes confuses the student. They get to thinking it's got to be this way or that way. So I want us to look at what it really means to communicate. We talk a lot, don't we, about the clairs, and we have people who say, I'm a clairvoyant, clairaudient, clair. And you see students scratching their heads saying, well, why aren't I all of them? And what does it mean to be all of them? So I'm very, very anxious in a way to make sure students fully understand how the spirit world communicate with us. What is the language they use? And how do we receive that language? And also, to a certain point, interpret that language.
Now, Jackie, is this something that just you feel like comes naturally for people, or is this something that can be learned?
I believe it's something that it's both. It's innate within each and every one of us. We all have the ability to a degree or other, but it's usually ignited by an event in our life. So some of us are born with it. I wasn't, although it's there within me, I wasn't naturally a medium from being a child. But then there were events in my life that happened that ignited it. And I started to then become more aware of the other world. And I also think that's a myth. That students feel they have to have this whole narrative of what happened to them as a child. And, you know, my grandmother stood at the end of my bed, or I saw this man in the hallway, to prove that they are natural mediums.
Right.
But we're all naturally mediumistic. We just come about it in different routes. That's all.
Okay. And I, you know, as you're saying this, that kind of brings up these images in my mind of, like, you know, maybe what Hollywood brings to us, or even a religious upbringing, this idea of the myth, and kind of trying to break away from maybe what we visualize a medium should be or is. So when you're talking about this language of the clairs, it sounds to me like you're going to go in depth about how, you know, how we not only receive the information, but then what we do with it. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You see, you're right. You're absolutely right, Heather. Hollywood over the years has sold us a vision of what mediumship should be, and possession and all of this.
Yes.
Add to that the orthodox religions, which I was raised in, and we have this distorted perception of what the spirit world is. And I like to strip that away, but I like to strip it away with science. Mediumship, after all, is a science. It's not bound to a religion. So therefore, everything we do should be, shall we say, provable. So therefore, we've got to approach our development as scientists and say, okay, well, how does that work? And what's the science behind that? Then once we know that, and more importantly, as individuals, Heather, once we know our own truth, then our mediumship can blossom.
Wow.
The last thing I want is students to know my truth. I'll share that, yes, obviously, but I want the student to discover their own truth. because that's what gives them confidence to bloom in their own individual way.
Yeah, and you talk about that in this description. It's more under your own process of mediumship, but really capturing and holding on to that individuality, because that's how spirit communicates with us as well. There's a reason that certain spirits maybe are attracted to working with us, because we keep that individuality and we're not trying to be like a cookie cutter. You know, I feel like that's important to say, that you really help the students understand and focus on their own individuality.
Absolutely. But I agree and disagree with something you said there.
Sure.
What we have found over the last decade is that we have been producing, if that's the correct terminology, clones. Yes. So you must develop in this one way, you must do it this way. And so therefore we have lost that uniqueness. We don't have today very often mediums where you go, oh wow, look at their style and look at how they work. We don't celebrate that because they don't conform.
Oh wow.
Well, the spirit world never expected us to.
Yes.
They chose us for the uniqueness that we are. And so we need to hold on to that. We need to embrace it, but strengthen it. But the one part that I want to slightly disagree with you is that certain spirits will choose a medium. I don't agree with that. I don't believe the spirit world censor which medium they go to. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say your grandmother's in the spirit world and she wants to contact you, for example. She's not going to look around and say, which medium should I go to?
I see.
She's going to go, there's my granddaughter, there's a medium. But the difficulty is if the medium's mind is expansive enough to reach that individual spirit.
Wow. Okay.
Because a lot of the time, it's our own blocks that stop that spirit person coming through. You know, something I say a lot is mediumship is a journey into the medium. It's a journey into understanding who we really are. And mediumship will very quickly show us where we are falling short. So, for example, if we are racist, homophobic, if we are sexist or biased in any way, that will show within our mediumship. And so mediumship isn't just about developing a faculty. It's about the understanding of ourselves at a deeper level. So that self-discovery is as important as the discovery of the spirit world.
Wow, and that sounds like a lifelong process. This is not something that you do, you take a class and all of a sudden you're clear about your stuff, you're clear about their stuff. It sounds like this is, can you share with us, Jackie, just a little bit about your history and how you came to this? I find it interesting that you said you weren't born, you weren't this child, medium that saw things. And I think that is another myth, that there's an assumption maybe that you're born with something different, and, which is, of course, our ego kind of screaming out maybe in a way that that's the way it has to have happened. Yeah. Can you just share a little bit of your past?
Yes, certainly. But I also think that's the myth we have created from our pioneers. But I was raised a Catholic. That was my family's religion. My father died when I was 6, and my mum died when I was 16. I had a childhood of multiple layers of abuse, so it was not a happy childhood. But some years after my mum passed, and I'm making a very long story very short here, my younger sister said to me, where do you think mum is? And she said, should we go to the spook church to find out? Because in England, the slang term for a spiritualist church is the spook church.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And I went straight into fear. And I said, no, we can't do that. We're Catholics. We'll go to hell. No, we can't do that. Saying the Hail Marys as I was crossing myself and praying for salvation. Anyway, she pushed me and she badgered me, really. And my then husband took me to the church because I'd agreed to meet my sister there at 7 o'clock on a Thursday evening. And when I got to the church, my sister wasn't there. And I went into the church and it was full to capacity. And the medium working gave me a wonderful message from my dad. And then she said to me, one day you will stand on this platform. And I called her an idiot. I demanded to know who told her about my father, because somebody must have told her the information. And then I demanded to be let out.
Wow.
But there was something in me that couldn't let it go. I wanted to keep finding out more. My sister just said, well, do you know what, Jackie? I forgot all about coming. I just forgot.
Wow.
So from that, I started to attend church regular. I was still in conflict with my Catholic belief, but it was very comforting to be there. Then I joined the development group, and then within a very short space of time, within 3 months, the teacher of the group was saying to me, I want you on the platform, which was ridiculous because I could deliver a message, but I didn't understand how. I didn't understand the mechanics of it all. I just knew I got information. So that was a very potted history of my development. But it was, I hate to say the word destiny or predestined, but 30 years later, my sister still has never been through the doors of a spiritualist church.
That's interesting.
Yet they are my life.
Yes.
You know, so it's just the way she prompted the visit. She was the one who was insistent, and then she doesn't come. And then it consumes my life, you know. But I found the development of mediumship very confusing because you were never really told how it operates. You were never told how that connection happens. It was just say what's in your head, just come out with it, just give words out there and hope that you were saying the right thing. And that's never been any good for me. I need to know how. I need to know what's going on. I need to know how it all works. So eventually I took myself away from the church development, started to attend the Arthur Findlay College, got a lot of answers there to my questions. And this is where I am now.
Great. And you currently are the chairman at the Arthur Findlay College, and you're working on a curriculum. Great.
Very privileged to be the chairman of the college and a course organizer and tutor there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, Jackie, could you maybe describe how, or maybe what the difference is like of talking and communicating with spirit and talking with maybe, you know, having a conversation with your best friend or someone who's here still in human form? How is that different? Can you, it's kind of an esoteric question, but can you kind of describe how that might look or feel to someone who's working on this?
Yeah. You see, again, one of the myths is we think that to be able to speak to mum and dad in the spirit world is like me speaking with you now. That they're going to come close to me and they're going to just say, Jackie, it's mum, and you want to say this, this, and this. Gosh, mediumship would be so easy if it was like that. The very basic difference, Heather, is we here have a body. A body that has a brain that operates the vocal cords and all the rest of it, and gives us that ability to think, to reason, and to speak. The body is perishable. The body gets laid to rest when it dies. And what is left is our spirit and our soul. And the spirit is what communicates back. But the spirit has no brain to operate a vocal cord. So therefore, the spirit will communicate through the sensories. Okay. And for me, the best sense, if you will, or the only sense that is used by the spirit world is feeling, clairsentient. So as my energy field expands, as grandmother moves in to my energy field, she will start to impress through a feeling her life story. This is where it gets really exciting in a sense, but confusing as well.
Okay.
Because then my brain will pick up that feeling and go, okay, that's a feeling I haven't had before. How do I make sense of it? And how do I turn it into a language Jackie can understand?
Right.
So if you're a more visual person, you will get imagery.
Okay.
If you're a more audio person, you'll get words in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it all stems from a feeling. And the reason why that's important to know is because it forces us then as trainee mediums to hold our focus inward.
Yes.
What's changing within me instead of looking outward for somebody to be standing there and communicating that way.
Yes.
So if we can learn to, first of all, build our power, yes, that's so important because we are the vessel. Okay, the vehicle, everything has to pass in and out of. So the stronger our vessel, the closer the blend. If we can get that blend right, then everything about that person in spirit is released into our feelings.
Okay.
We just have to learn then to keep the focus and to follow that feeling. You see.
So when you, I'm just a little confused, the blend. So when, and from, you know, you also mentioned the scientific aspect, which I love about you specifically in your teaching is bringing this in, but it's almost like there's a magnetic kind of situation that happens. But when you say blend, what are you talking about?
So this is my pet subject in a sense. It's very fashionable at the moment to talk about sitting in the power.
Okay.
But not many people will explain what that is.
Yes.
And to really understand it, we have to go back to the 1700s when there was a gentleman called Franz Anton Mesmer.
Okay.
And by accident, because it's a long story, but by accident, he discovered that within our auric fields is a natural magnetic energy.
Yes.
When that is manipulated and powered, then miracles could happen. People could talk to the dead. People could go into trance. People could astral travel, remote view. But he specified in some very crude ways, I have to say, that magnetic energy had to be active. Now, that was in the 1700s.
Yes.
In the 1970s, a wonderful medium who's now in the spirit world called Glyn Edwards, he went to a seance and the spirit world said, for those of you who are teachers of mediumship, please do not teach your students meditation. It does not help us. Please teach them to sit in their own power. And that's what we do. If we can build, I call it our gym workout for the day. If we can build that magnetic energy, it means the spirit world can get a closer blend. They can travel through that auric field and blend with our senses so that we know they are real to us. I think one of the things I want to stress, if I may, Heather.
Yes.
A lot of mediums do not see the spirit people as real people.
Yeah.
They do not understand that my dad in the spirit world is still my dad.
Yes.
He's not a male energy or a fatherly figure.
Yes.
He is my dad. And they don't see them as real because they've never felt the closeness and the touch of them.
Yeah.
And we can only feel that is if we build our vessel. If we get that power right so they can blend with us, you see. So as a result, we have an awful lot of mediums who hold the spirit world away from them.
Yes.
And we get generic evidence, or I've got a fatherly energy figure who loves you, and does anybody know who this is? You know, and the information is vague, and or we've got a grandmother who loves to be in the kitchen baking her cookies. There's no uniqueness from the spirit people. Now, if we want to get the best evidence, and for me, the best evidence is to find the uniqueness of that spirit person. What makes my dad different from your dad or anybody else's father?
Right.
We can only find that uniqueness in them when we start to find it in ourselves, you see. But we're looking for not just my dad, but what made my dad the man he was. And we don't really get that. We get a lot of generic evidence that's bland and uninspiring.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, first of all, because I think some of us have experienced maybe going to a platform reading or even just seeing something online, and it's like, wait, what's actually going on? And it doesn't feel genuine. As you're talking, Jackie, the idea of intention and intentionality really came forward in how it is that this is a very life-altering process, not only, for the individual, but maybe if you are reading for a client or if you're on a platform, the information coming through it's very personal. And it feels, as you were talking, just that there's an important intention behind this building of the power. It's not a meditation of like emptying the mind that we might be familiar with. It's very intentional. And, I've been in some of your classes, so I know that this is something that you do every single day. And when this is taught, this is not a you sit for a week, you sit for a month, and all of a sudden everything will come. This is an intentional practice, and it's a discipline. Is that right?
And that's my favorite word, Heather. It's a discipline. And it's why I call it our gym workout for the day. Yeah. And one of the problems with it is, and this is where students get a little bit frustrated, is it's a very, very simple process. It takes 10 minutes, that's all. And it can be done anywhere because it's your own power. You're not connecting to the spirit world with it yet. So students go, oh, is that it? That's easy. I want it to be more complicated than that. Because as human beings, if it's worthwhile, it's got to be difficult, right?
Yes.
So if I can encourage students to take 10 minutes a day,
wow.
And yes, I have my own way of sitting in the power, which is on my downloads on my website. But you can go onto YouTube and you can find hundreds of variations until you find the one that suits you.
Interesting.
And once you've found the one that suits you, whoever it belongs to doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as you keep using it consistently.
Okay.
Until that power is magnetized.
Okay. Yeah. That's fascinating. I think more information about the auric fields, because it can feel very esoteric. It can, feel like it's unattainable to understand what that is, because we don't necessarily see. We're used to trying to kind of be in this physical world, and it is physical, but we don't necessarily, well, I guess some people can, but I can't see it. So, that's an interesting practice to start to understand that. And Jackie, would you kind of say that would be one of your most important pieces of advice for someone just starting out?
Yeah, definitely, because that auric field is yours. It belongs to you. It's the most important tool in your mediumistic toolbox.
Yep.
And it's your foundation.
Yep.
So we have to begin with the vessel. I keep using that term, I know. But if we don't get the vessel right, nothing else will fall into place. So if we can encourage the student from the beginning to understand their auric field, to understand what it means to have the discipline of sitting in the power, then we're a little bit further down the road than we were.
Yes.
Because now the spirit world can recognize that power and start their journey to you, you see. The second thing I would say to students is become observant.
Yeah.
Life teaches us to become desensitized. We have pain in life, we have loss. We get to the point where we're afraid to feel.
Yeah.
Because it hurts.
Sure.
So what I would say to students is become observant, but start when you look at things like the picture behind you, go, how does that make me feel when I look at it? How does it feel to watch a sunset? How does it feel to look at pictures in a magazine? So when you're looking, go to the feeling as well.
Yeah.
What do I feel with that?
That's interesting, because I think being so inundated, sometimes we just want to check out. There's this kind of desire of overwhelm, whatever it is, trauma, all the things that we go through. I think right now, in some ways, we're being taught to not feel,
That's exactly
or feel
right.
something very specific,
Yeah.
So I think when we take that internal moment to ask ourselves, rather than, what we're maybe supposed to be feeling or supposed to be experiencing, that is very different. It's very different to check in. This is a very internal process, isn't it, though?
Absolutely. But all things, so listening to music, they're all different kinds of music, to see what they make you feel like. What do they evoke within you?
Yeah.
You see, the second most important tool in your toolbox after your auric field is your life's experience, because that is the library the spirit world will use. You see, so your library, your life story is vital to the spirit world, vital. Yet we spend a lifetime trying to cover it over or deny it happened or whatever. But your life story is why the spirit world have chosen you. So we've got to start to embrace ourselves, be proud of what we have gone through and survived, and know that that is what we're bringing to the table for the spirit world. This is my life that I'm offering you. And that is such a powerful, powerful part of us.
Yeah, wow, I love that. This idea of the library. Jackie, would you mind maybe sharing just one experience that you had where something from your life was used in that way during a reading? You do platform, but you also do private I used to do private readings. Are you still doing private readings?
No, I haven't been doing them for a couple of years because of the pandemic, etc. Yes,
It's been a tough couple of years. But maybe you could just give us an example, because you focus so much on the individuality of the person, which is really important. But maybe you could give us just an example of when something that happened in your life was used this way in a reading.
Oh, there's many, so many. So, for example, I had quite an abusive mother. And that's another thing that isn't usual. So you normally get a medium go, I've got your mum and she loves you very much.
Yes.
Well, my mum didn't, and it's just how it was. Yeah. But I can remember doing a reading for a lady, and her mum came in, and I said, she wasn't a great mum to you, and she caused you a lot of tears. And the lady was crying.
Yeah.
And I got that information because I was very much aware of events that happened in my childhood with my mum. Yeah. They were very prominent in my library at that time.
Right.
And so therefore that took me to this understanding that this lady's mum wasn't a loving, caring mum, you see. But another maybe more poignant one, I lost a child as a baby, and I was doing a sit-in for a gentleman. And very, very quickly, I became aware of my loss of the baby. And I was very much aware of the process that led to that. And straight away, I could say to him, you have a son in the spirit world that died as a baby, and this is how he died. But it all came from my own understanding of that, you see. Yes. So, but there's many, many, many ways that the spirit world have used my life to... You see, our life story gives us something that's very important in mediumship. It gives us empathy. Yeah. It gives us understanding of loss, of pain, of life. Yeah. And when somebody comes to you for a sit-in, you're literally holding their life in your hands. And their pain is very palpable in your hands.
Yeah.
So we can't emphasize with somebody, we can't say to you, I know how you're feeling. If I've never experienced loss,
Right.
if I've never experienced pain, you know, I can't say to you, I know what you feel.
Right.
Because that would mean I was being untruthful,
Sure.
you see. So our own experience of life and pain helps us to identify with another. But it's also what makes us real to somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes as mediums, we're not seen as real people.
Yeah.
We're looked at these, you know, well, all kinds of imagery. But when we can identify with somebody's pain, we become real to them.
Right.
You know, they can say, oh gosh, she understood me. She knows because she's been there.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps them to relax. It takes the mystique away of what we're doing, the fear away of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then everything is just about two people connecting through that love, and then the love of the spirit world joining in with that.
Yeah.
You know?
This also sounds like such a positive interaction. You know, there doesn't seem to be a lot of negativity. Even if there was some negativity experienced during life, this sounds like an amazing opportunity to heal.
Absolutely.
Heal some of this.
And all mediumship, Heather, is healing mediumship.
Yeah.
If the person you're doing a reading for example, or touching on in a platform demonstration, if they do not leave feeling uplifted, we haven't done our job. Okay, because the spirit world's biggest language is love.
Yeah.
And if we aren't coming from that place of love, if we want to be egotistical and shock and, you know, make people go, oh, then we're not doing our job.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, Heather, the medium isn't that important.
Yeah.
The reunion is important.
Absolutely.
You know, the father with his child again, the mother with her child again, that reunion is what's important.
Yeah.
All the medium does is build the bridge for that reunion to take place on.
Yeah.
The minute we start thinking we're anything special, we should walk away.
Yeah. Wow.
Because we're really not.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Well, Jackie, I just want to say thank you so much again for taking this time with us. And I know our students and anyone who's going to watch this will just really enjoy what you've shared. It's taken out a lot of the mystique, as you said, to some of these ideas behind what we maybe thought mediumship might be or what it might have looked like is now hopefully very different. It's also taught me a lot sitting here with you, and I look forward to being in this class. It will be on Tuesdays. It's a consecutive 7 weeks that we'll be doing in June of 2022 here, but hopefully you'll be able to you know, be with us again and work with us again. Was actually, before we go real quick, can you just share your website with us and any other information of how we can find you?
Well, you can find me on my website, www.mediumjackiewright.co.uk. You can find my CDs on there to download if anybody's interested in that. You can find me on the Arthur Findlay College website and information on that. So, yeah, they're places you can. But, you know, just for the students, Heather, what I'm looking forward to is those students coming along with open minds, with their scientific head on, so that they can come in and say, okay, I want to know my truth, not Jackie's truth, but my own truth, because that's what gives us confidence.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I think that's such an important concept you bring forward in your teaching. And I'm just going to share our website. It's the www.sfimss.com, where they can find you for this upcoming course. Jackie, thank you so much. It was just lovely.
Thank you. I really enjoyed speaking to you, Heather. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll talk again soon, I hope.